Michael stood over my grave. I watched him, not from some floating afterlife, where angels hum songs and flowers bloom in eternal spring, but from a cold, shadowy corner of existence, bitter, quiet, forgotten, the kind of place where memories are played on repeat like broken records, and mine always stopped at the same moment, the second he whispered in my ear, "Just go quietly, Jill." For her, her, was Dolores. Delicate, soft-spoken Dolores, who wore sorrow like a crown and always knew how to cry at the perfect volume. She had been my best friend once. Or so I thought, until love twisted that into a sharp, unrecognizable shape. Michael was everything back then. Tall, calm, with a voice like falling rain, and a mind that could read you before you even spoke. I loved him the way a flame loves air, desperately, wildly, but in the end, he gave his warmth to her and left me choking on smoke. "You were too much," he had said once, not cruelly, just plainly. Too loud, too emotional, too you. So when the sickness came, when the doctors gave me months and my heart gave up sooner, I wasn't surprised that the woman beside my hospital bed wasn't Dolores, and the man holding my hand wasn't Michael. He came only once, the last night, and he didn't cry. He asked, "Just go quietly, Jill," for her, and I did, but silence has a funny way of turning loud in death. And some cosmic rule, or maybe my own stubborn spirit, decided that wasn't going to be the end of my story. I woke up, not in heaven, not in hell, but in a hospital room, crying like a newborn, with lungs too used to being dead. New body, new life, new name, but the same heart. And in this life, I was not the Jill who whispered. I was not the Jill who made herself small to make others comfortable. I became fire. A woman with a voice sharp enough to cut glass. They called me Ava now. It took me years to find him again. Michael, still handsome, still calm, still living in that glass house he once built with Dolores, though she had long since left him. Something about her, needing air. The irony didn't escape me. I didn't want revenge. I wanted recognition. I wanted him to see me and feel the weight of what he lost. And I got that chance one night at Roger's gallery. Roger, the second male thread in this tapestry of my existence. Charming, magnetic, with a laugh that could quiet thunderstorms. He had loved Jill once, briefly, secretly. Now he was drawn to Eva without knowing why. Maybe somewhere deep down, he remembered. Michael walked in late, with that same look of casual power, scanning the room as if the world was a stage, and he was the audience. When his eyes landed on me, he paused. That pause meant something. "Have we met?" he asked. I smiled. "Not in this life." His brow furrowed, and Roger put a protective arm around my waist. "Michael, this is Ava. Ava works in postmodern sculpture. She's brilliant." Michael nodded slowly. "Ava," he repeated, like it was a song he once heard in a dream, and I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Tell me, Michael, have you ever asked someone to die for someone else?" Roger blinked, Michael froze, and in that moment, just one, I knew the old Jill had stirred something inside him. But this time, I wouldn't be dying for anyone. Roger didn't understand the question, not the way Michael did. He laughed softly, trying to brush off the sudden tension. "That's a dramatic line, Eva. Sounds like something out of a noir film." I kept my eyes on Michael. His jaw had gone stiff, his fingers curled inward, like he was trying to hide something from himself. I watched the thoughts race behind his stare. Guilt doesn't age well. It turns into confusion when you least expect it. "Excuse me." he said after a beat, and turned sharply toward the bar. Roger leaned in, whispering close to my ear. What was that about? I turned and smiled, like nothing had cracked open inside me. Old ghosts. He didn't press me. That was one thing I liked about Roger. He didn't go digging where he wasn't invited. He simply reached for my hand, grounding me back to the room, to the now, to the woman I'd become. But I couldn't let Michael walk away. Not yet. Later that night, while the clinking glasses and murmured flirts of the gallery buzzed on, I found him standing on the patio, staring into a glass of something golden that caught the light like guilt itself. You didn't think I'd come back, I said softly. He turned slowly. His eyes, once so sure of the world, now searched my face like a puzzle missing the centerpiece. Who are you? He asked, but it wasn't casual anymore. It wasn't flirtatious. It was frightened. I stepped closer. Does it matter? Yes, he said, a whisper now. It does. I tilted my head. Would it change anything? His throat moved as he swallowed. It would change everything. And for a moment, I believed him. You stood over me when I was dying, Michael, I said, and you didn't hold my hand. You didn't beg me to stay. You didn't say you were sorry. You told me to go quietly. For her. He took a step back like I'd slapped him. I don't know who you think you are. He started, but his voice cracked halfway through. I know who I am. I cut in. I'm the woman you asked to disappear. And now I'm the woman you can't ignore. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the stone tiles. I watched you move on, I said. I watched you forget me while I still remembered. You every time the wind hit just right. And now I'm here. Not to haunt you, not to hurt you, but to live, loudly, unapologetically, with or without your memory. His eyes were wide now, hands shaking at his sides. Jill? I smiled, but there was no softness in it. She died, remember? You asked her to. A long silence passed between us, filled only by the distant music from inside and the shivering sound of his breath. Then I turned and walked away. Back inside, Roger was waiting. He saw something in my face. Not sadness, not triumph, just truth. You okay? He asked. I nodded. I think I just buried someone. He touched my cheek, thumb brushing away the tear I hadn't realized was falling. Then let's go dance on his grave. I laughed, real, raw, loud, and for this first time in 2 lives, I felt free. The air outside was thick with memory, but inside the gallery, life moved on. People swirled around the sculptures, drinks in hand, gossiping about art they didn't understand, and lovers they'd soon betray. I walked back into that world on Roger's arm, like I'd always belonged, even if a part of me still buzzed with the electricity of what had just happened. Michael didn't follow. I wondered if he was still standing by that broken glass, staring at the pieces, realizing one by one just how deeply he had shattered me. Roger leaned close as we walked toward the dance floor, his voice low and warm. Whatever that was, you handled it like a queen. I met his gaze. He used to think I was too much, too dramatic, too messy. Roger grinned. That's what makes you magnificent. And that was why I trusted Roger. He never asked me to shrink. He didn't try to tame the storm. He admired it. That night, we danced until the gallery dimmed, until the staff was politely trying to sweep around us, until laughter felt like something sacred. And when he drove me home, he didn't ask questions. He just held my hand in silence, letting the night breathe between us. But Michael wasn't done with me. The next morning, he was waiting outside my apartment. I spotted him from the window. Same coat, same wounded pride folded into his posture. Part of me wanted to ignore him. Part of me wanted to scream. But I was done hiding from ghosts. So I went down. You tracked me down. I asked, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe. I need to talk to you, he said. I raised an eyebrow. You had plenty of chances. You picked Dolores instead. He flinched. That wasn't... You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I snapped. You loved her because she was quiet, soft, manageable. I loved you with fire, and you didn't know what to do with that. So you let me go. She was pregnant. The words stopped me cold. What? Back then, he said. When you were sick. Dolores was pregnant. I didn't know how to tell you. And then she lost it. She blamed herself. Said if I didn't stress her, if I let you go, maybe it wouldn't happen again. I stared at him. So you asked me to die quietly for her comfort. His voice dropped. I was trying to do what was best. No, Michael, I said, shaking, my head slowly. You were trying to be a coward with good intentions. His eyes glazed over. When I saw you last night, I didn't know what I was seeing, but now I do. It's you. Somehow it's you. And you don't get to ask why, I said, stepping forward. You don't get to ask how. I was sent back. Maybe by God. Maybe by the universe. Maybe by the sheer rage of a woman told to fade away. But I didn't come back for you. Then why did you come back? I didn't answer. I turned to go, but he grabbed my arm, gently. Jill, Ava, wait, I yanked it free. You lost your chance to say my name with kindness a long time ago. There was pain in his eyes. Now, not the pain of losing love, the pain of realizing you never understood it until it was too late. I miss you, he said, barely audible. You miss the idea of me, I replied. The version of me who would have still died for you. He stood there, helpless. And for the first time, I realized he had always been small. I just never saw it clearly before. Upstairs, Roger texted, You okay? Want breakfast? I make sinful pancakes. I smiled as I typed back, Yes, I'll bring the syrup, and maybe finally tell you who I was. I turned one last time to look at Michael. Goodbye, I said, and meant it. Want to go on? Roger's kitchen smelled like cinnamon, butter, and the kind of safety I hadn't known I was craving. He wore a navy blue robe, hair still tousled from sleep, flipping pancakes like it was a sacred ritual. When he saw me, he gave me that sleepy grin, the one that made my chest ache a little, in a way Michael's never had. You brought syrup? He asked, eyeing the bottle I held. And a story, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Do I need whiskey in my coffee for this? Probably. We sat at his small table, sunlight pouring in through the windows. I took a deep breath. My real name used to be Jill. Roger didn't laugh. He didn't blink. He just sipped his coffee and said, Go on. I died, Roger. A few years ago. Same city. Different name. Different life. I had cancer. It ate me up quick. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was what happened before I died. I paused, watching his face. Still no disbelief. No jokes. Just quiet attention. There was a man, Michael. He was everything to me, until he wasn't. He fell in love with someone else. Dolores, my best friend. I was angry, but when I got sick, I hoped it would bring us closer. Instead, he came to me the night before I passed and asked me to go quietly. For her. Roger set his cup down slowly, and then I did. I died quietly. Alone. Still loving a man who couldn't even look me in the eyes at the end. Silence wrapped around us. He didn't speak, didn't move. Then finally he whispered, How are you here? I don't know. I woke up one day as Ava. Different body, different parents. but the memories stayed. And the anger too. Roger leaned back, exhaling hard. Jesus. I wasn't supposed to remember him. Or you. He blinked. Me? You knew Jill. Briefly. We met once at a fundraiser. You were different then. I was too. But you smiled at me like you saw something beneath the sickness. And for a second, I wished I'd met you first. Roger rubbed his jaw, stunned. I don't remember that. You didn't need to. Maybe you were always meant to meet me in this life. He looked at me then, really looked. Like I'd pulled back a veil he hadn't even known was there. I believe you, he said finally. You do. Yeah, I don't know why, but I do. And I'm sorry. For what? For whatever part I played in your first life that wasn't enough to keep you here. Tears burned behind my eyes, and I hated that I still had any left. But they came, quietly, not in rage, not in grief, just release. Roger reached across the table and took my hand. So, what do you want now? I want to live. Loudly, messily, truthfully, he grinned. That I can help with. That afternoon, we walked the city, no plans, no maps, just hands brushing and stories unraveling. I told him about the first time I rode a bike, and how in this life, I never learned again. He laughed and promised to teach me. We wandered into bookstores, shared greasy fries on a park bench, and by the time the sun dipped low, I'd almost forgotten the face of Michael entirely. Almost, because when I got home, there was a letter waiting for me. No stamp, no envelope, just paper, slipped under my door. I see you now. I see what I lost. If you ever want to hear the whole truth, come one. Last time, Emma held the letter like it was poison, and memory fused into one. My hands shook, and I had a choice to make. I stared at the letter for a long time. Its words weren't long, but they carried weight. That heavy, lingering kind you can't scrub off no matter how many lives you live. Michael wanted to talk, to confess maybe, or to rewrite history, or to convince himself he wasn't the villain in my story. I folded the paper slowly and set it on the table next to my tea. My reflection in the dark glass of the window looked tired. Not in the way Jill had been, frail and fading. This was the exhaustion of old wounds pretending to be scars. The next morning, I didn't tell Roger. He made eggs and talked about renting a place by the coast for a weekend. Just you, me, and salt air, he said. No ghosts allowed. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and told him I'd meet him after work. But I didn't go to work. I went to Michael's. He lived in the same apartment building as before. Higher floor, though. A better view, I imagined, for watching the world pass by without ever being part of it. He opened the door like he'd been standing behind it for hours. You came. Don't sound so surprised. He stepped back, silent, letting me in. The apartment was clean in that sterile, lonely way. Expensive furniture, untouched books, not a single photo on the walls, just space. Wide, echoing space. Do you want tea? He asked. I want the truth. He nodded slowly, walked to the counter, poured 2 glasses of water instead. We sat on opposite ends of a long table, like we were strangers, meeting before a war. I lied to you, he said first. That night in the hospital, I didn't just ask you to die for her. I begged you not to make it messy, not to cry, not to leave behind any drama. I wanted it quiet so I could pretend it didn't break me. I didn't blink. Why are you telling me this now? Because I see it in your eyes. You came back with something I never had. Courage. I think you always had it. I just didn't want to see it. And Dolores, he looked down. She left 2 years after you died. Said she couldn't look at me without seeing you. She never forgave me. And neither did I. So what, Michael? You want peace now? Forgiveness? No, he said. I want to know if you ever truly loved me, even in the end. That question caught me off guard, because the truth was, I had. Even when I was fading, even when he'd broken me, some stupid corner of my heart had clung to him like he was air. But not anymore. I stood, slowly. I loved you. I died with that love in my chest like a brick. And now, I love the sound of my own voice more. I love waking up next to someone who doesn't flinch when I laugh too loud. I love being a storm that someone wants to chase. He stood too, eyes wet. So this is goodbye. No, Michael, I said gently. That already happened. This is just the part where I stop haunting you. I walked to the door. Ava, he said suddenly. I paused. I hope this life gives you everything the last one stole. I looked back at him. It already has a head start. When I got outside, the sky cracked open with sudden summer rain. I didn't run. I stood in it, arms open, face tilted toward the sky. I let it drench me, cleanse me, baptize me in new beginnings. Then my phone buzzed. Roger. Got that beach house. You in? Or do I need to find a loud, beautiful storm to drag with me? I smiled so hard it hurt. I'm in. I'll bring thunder. The beach house looked like something pulled out of an old movie. All creaky wood, salty air, and wildflowers growing in chaotic bursts along the porch. Roger stood barefoot on the steps, waiting for me with 2 glasses of wine and that grin of his that made promises without words. You brought the thunder, he asked as I stepped out of the car. And lightning, I said, lifting my bag. He took it from me without asking and kissed the top of my head. Then we're safe. No storm ever hits the same place twice. Inside, everything was soft, worn in, furniture, windows that didn't quite close. A fire already started in the hearth, even though it was May. I dropped my shoes at the door and let myself breathe, really breathe, for the first time in days, maybe years. Roger poured wine. I curled up on the couch with a blanket that smelled like old pine and summer memories. I went to see him, I said after a while. Roger didn't move, just sipped quietly, waiting. He wanted closure. Did you give it to him? No. I gave it to myself. He nodded, slow. Good, because he already had too many pieces of you. We sat in silence, not awkward or forced, just comfortable. And when he moved closer, I didn't flinch like I used to with Michael. Roger didn't touch me like I was breakable. He touched me like I was fire. Warm, dangerous, necessary. You still dreaming of the past? He asked, fingers tracing lazy circles on my knee. Less and less, I whispered. Every day I'm with you. Jill fades a little. Eva grows louder. I like Eva. She's kind of a badass. She had to be. Coming back from death tends to kill the polite parts. He laughed. Then thank God for second chances. Later. That night, after we'd made love with the windows open and the sea crashing outside like applause, I laid against his chest and let myself say the thing I never got to say in my first life. I was scared of being forgotten. He didn't answer right away, just wrapped his arms tighter around me. You won't be, he said. Not in this life. Not in any life after. And I believed him. For once, I wasn't someone's second choice. I wasn't the quiet sacrifice. Was a woman who had died and dared to return, not to win back what she lost, but to claim what she deserved. A life fully lived, a love fully felt, a voice never silenced again. The next morning, we watched the sun rise from the porch, barefoot and wrapped in one another. I've got an idea, Roger said. You should write it all down. What? My twisted resurrection romance. No, he said. Your truth. You've got fire. Let people warm their hands by it. I thought about it, about Jill and Ava, about silence and storms, and I smiled. Maybe I will. Epilogue. The book was titled, She Died Quietly, Then Lived Loudly. It sat in the window of an indie bookstore in the city, nestled between memoirs and heartbreak poems. Its cover a swirl of color, reds and golds, and stormy blues, like someone had painted rebellion onto paper. It wasn't a bestseller. It didn't need to be. It was something else, a whisper for the loud girls who'd been told to hush, a scream for the ones who stayed soft too long, a mirror for every woman who had once let love drown her, only to realize her lungs were built for fire, not water. Reviews were mixed. Some called it unhinged, too emotional, too raw. Others said it healed them. Roger read it cover to cover in a single night. When he finished, he kissed the back of my hand and said, "You wrote your name into the world. It's never going away now." I still kept Michael's letter in a drawer, not for longing, for proof that I had once been quiet, that I had once been someone who faded for love, and that I had risen. Some nights, when the wind was loud and the ocean crashed hard against the shore, I would whisper the name Jill just once to remind her she was never truly gone. She had just become me. And on the nights Roger held me close, humming songs with no words, I smiled into the dark, not because I'd found the perfect ending, but because I had finally written my own The End.